Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the IU Day of the Gear Up Virtual Summer Bridge. We are delighted to have you here with us today. We've got a lot of great information with you, or to share with you today. A lot of wonderful presenters who have resources that are really going to benefit you in terms of your academic and college readiness planning. So I'm going to go ahead and get us started for today. I am Julia Jennings. I'm the Director of Community and School Partnerships, and I work with both campus and community partners and pre-college students to develop and help provide programs like this to broaden your understanding of college readiness and what IU is like. So with that, we want to give you some idea of what you can expect in our time together today. We will start off with a conversation about why college and why IU. Why is it important in today's society and economy that a college education be considered as part of your post-high school plans? Then we'll share about the IU admissions process. We'll hear from representatives from both the Bloomington and IUPUI campuses about what those campuses are like and how you can apply for admission. We'll talk a little bit about estimating the cost of college and the 21st Century Scholar resources at IU. So if you're a 21st Century Scholar, there's going to be a lot of great information for you. But even if you're not, the skills and resources that you need for the 21st Century Scholarship apply to every student who is a pre-college student. Then we'll spend some of our time talking with current IU students to get their perspective of what college is like, both in the classroom and outside of the classroom. And you'll get a chance to ask any of those questions that you have about college life. And then finally, we'll talk about how after today, you can keep preparing and engaging with IU so that you're ready for life after high school. In order to participate in our conversation today, if you want to have your video on, that is welcome. If we're having any bandwidth issues, you're welcome to turn that off as well. To participate and provide questions and feedback that you have, please use the chat function until we get to that Q&A part. At that point, you can feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question directly, or again, put it in the chat. If you're having any tech issues today, go ahead and send a private message to our team here. Lisa Huffman is one of our tech support here in the background, and you can also send me messages as well. If you want to use the reactions button, if you find something that you really like and you want to let the presenter know that give the little heart emoji or celebration or applause, feel free to do that. And we encourage you to participate in polls as we go along with our conversation today. So without further ado, we're going to talk about why college and why IU. And so I'm going to turn the floor over to Christina.
Hi there. I'm Christina Downey. I serve as Associate Vice Chancellor for Academic Affairs and Student Success at Indiana University Kokomo, which is one of our regional campuses here throughout the state. There are 5 regional campuses along with Bloomington and IUPUI, so I'm really happy to be part of this conversation and to kick us off by talking about this big question of why college in the first place. I just happened to see the results of a survey yesterday that it was describing how even current students, particularly coming through this pandemic period, have questions about whether college is worthwhile. So these are students who had already started college, fall 2019, fall 2020, and they're worried about whether getting and completing their college education is worthwhile. And so because this is such a current conversation, we thought it'd be appropriate to start this conversation with you around this question. So Julia, if you'll advance the slide for me and kick off with our first polls. I'm hoping to get student perspectives on this question over the next 10 years. This is an opinion question, right? Will completing a college education become more important, less important, or stay the same as today? So if you're seeing the poll on the screen and you want to take part, please, vote for one of those options. Which do you think is going to be the case? So we'll give you just a little bit of time. I see the votes coming in. Thank you so much. Let those votes come in, and then we'll share the results with everyone.
Are you ready for me to close that out for you, Christina?
Yes, that'd be great.
All right.
Okay, so you can see here that almost 2/3 of you would say more important. Another third approximately say stay the same. Nobody said less important. That is, I would say that your more importance, if that's what you happen to choose, a lot of folks would agree with you. And I'm going to share with you some information today, some data to kind of reveal why that is. But let's start off by kind of addressing the public perception of college education and its values. So Julia, if you'll move us ahead. So Gary Varvel is a celebrated cartoonist. He was recently retired from the Indy Stars, but he's a nationally syndicated cartoonist and worked for, 34 years or something doing cartoons, really kind of expressing different opinions about public questions. And so this is one of his from 2009. So you can see very clearly what he's trying to get across here, right? College student, college grad, basically questioning whether graduating from college adds any value to one's employability. Julia, the next, please. Here's another one also by him, showing people of various kind of ages and backgrounds, et cetera, achieving their college education and then turning straight around and entering an unemployment line, right? So that's kind of a bleak picture there. The next. Here's one that also by the same cartoonist, but depicting a conversation between a student and their counselor. Why should I go to college? So you can get a degree. Why? So you can get a good job. Why? So you can make more money. Why? So you can pay back your college loans. But change. The message here being pretty clear that there is this strong idea that maybe college education doesn't add anything to anyone's future. And in fact, it's just some kind of financial gain, right? That's somehow rigged against the student. Now, what's interesting about Mr. Varvel himself is that he was actually a graduate of IUPUI's Heron School of Art and Design. And he had, as I said, this very long cartooning career. So it's just interesting to see, how this kind of question about college can get turned around in the public imagination, right? So if a person were viewing these cartoons and trying to pick up like, okay, what does that say about the future of the value of college education? They get one kind of message, right? But let's go to some facts and see what the future is holding for us. This is the 21st Century Scholars website, Learn More Indiana. You can see right on the front panel, in terms of benefits of a degree, the state of Indiana is talking about how a college education is going to become more and certainly not less important over time. 60% of jobs will require an education beyond high school by 2020. So here we are already there. Average salary difference in the amount the college grads earn annually than workers with only a high school diploma, $22,000. That's a pretty significant pay difference, right, between those who only have a high school diploma and those who achieve a college degree. 50% increase in job security. That's basically referring to lower unemployment rates among people who have a college degree compared to those who don't. Next slide, please. Here's just another way of looking at that. Again, this is pretty recent data, right, 2020. Earnings and unemployment rate. So here you can see pretty precisely what the differences become. So I'll draw your attention to the high school diploma line, right? So they are median usual weekly earnings. So if you're at the 50th percentile, you're smack in the middle of the earnings curve, and you have a high school diploma, you can expect to earn $781 a week at the, kind of whatever work a person is able to get. That is the typical income on a weekly basis. But if you go up to the bachelor's degree line, you get up to $1,305 a week, right? That's how you get to that 22 grand at the end of the year. And if you look at the green bars, again, the high school diploma line, 9% unemployment rate in 2020 compared to a 5.5% unemployment rate in 2020 for people with those differing levels of education. Next slide, please. Here, and I know that if there are any parents on the call, there are often questions, but I know students have their questions as well about, well, what if I study this compared to that, right? Does it matter what major I study? And to a certain degree, it does. So you can see there at the bottom of the scale. So this is college graduates who completed different kinds of programs while they were in college. Chemical engineering and economics, you can see, generally speaking, this is lifetime total earnings would be higher for a person who studies engineering than compared to, for example, psychology, which is my own background, right? Still, when you look at the kind of ranges from the 25th to the 75th percentile, so that's really kind of our best guess about where any given person will land, there's much more overlap than you might guess, particularly based on certain kinds of stereotypical program comparisons, right? So you may assume that a person who studies biology or chemistry is naturally going to far out earn someone who studies English or philosophy. But if you pay attention just to those lines, that's actually not the case, right? There's a lot of similarity in overall earnings outcome. End of the day, what matters is that a person achieves that bachelor's degree. And what I always say to my students is, particularly if they're trying to figure out what to study what you love, study what is going to help you finish, because ultimately finishing is what matters, right? And so if a person chooses a particular program, but they hate that field, they're actually less likely to finish college, and therefore they're not going to get the benefit of getting that degree. So just to kind of give you a sense of I think there's more security in various pathways than you might guess. Next slide, please. Now, this is getting a little bit esoteric, right? But this is really relevant. If you're a student right now and you're looking forward into the future, let's take a look at what you can expect in terms of the openings that are going to be coming. What this is showing is actually birth rates, right? Birth rates by state across the United States and how they're changing. Basically, childbearing age adults are having less children, right? So in 2003, we had much more of the country in blue. That is, they were at or above the replacement rate for what it takes to keep the population stable, right? Much more of the country was stable than it is now. And you can look particularly at Indiana. So we're at a level where we are slowly going to decrease in population, even if nobody moves away from Indiana. Just the fact that people naturally die and then others are born to replace them, our population is going down. But the number of jobs, the need for certain kinds of jobs is still going to be there. And in fact, as our population ages, there's going to be even more need for people to step up and to be able to take those jobs. At the same time, we're having these questions about whether college education is valuable. And I find this very ironic, right? Because what these demographic data show us is that we're going to need people with degrees. They're not going to be around. And so we need to actually be promoting college education even more strongly than we are now. Next slide, please. This is another way to depict that. So if you look at the boomer age generation, right, they were most of the working population, but they're going to be decreasing, right? So going from 66% of the working age population in 1997 to just 41% a couple of years ago. The millennials now are the population that are largely working age and are dominating. And then we have Gen Xers and the Gen Zers, right, who are going to be coming up. But that as the boomers disappear, we're going to be seeing more and more need over time for people with that education. Continue, please. So when you bring it down to how many jobs are going to be open, what you can see here is the number of thousands of openings that will be projected in 2029 for people with an associate degree or some college. That is, they pursue some kind of post-high school education. There are going to be estimated about 43,000 openings unfilled in Indiana for people with that level of education. The next slide shows you that for bachelor's degree and higher level education is actually going to be even greater, 177,000 open positions in 2029. And where are we going to get the people to do those jobs? So as the labor market becomes more and more dependent on bachelor's degree educated people, your earning potential is only going to go up. Your competitive advantage only goes up over time as we have fewer workers out in the economy and more of these degrees needed. So that's where the future is showing us that we need to be prepared for. Next slide, please. Okay, at the same time, if you look at those public attitudes about, whether we definitely need to put emphasis on college education, if you look at that 18 to 29 age group that was surveyed about whether college education is important, perceptions are dropping. So we have 74% of 18 to 29-year-old adults in 2003 saying it's very important, and only 41% saying the same thing, agreeing with that statement that's important in 2019. So there's this huge disconnect between what the economy is asking for and the opportunity there and what the average person believes. Next slide. Again, this kind of cuts across all sectors of our society. So I know that so much of our conversation now in different kinds of topics are quote unquote politicized, right? And so what I like about this graph is that it shows that no matter whether your personal leanings are Democratic, independent, Republican, uninterested, right? Like the average person in our society, when you compare attitudes about the importance of college education compared to what employers say is important, there's this disconnect there too. So for example, employers were asked, is a college degree worth it despite the money and time involved? 49% of employers said it's definitely worth it. And the typical American responding to that same question, only 27% said it was worth it. So we don't even know what the employers are saying, right? So how do we make greater awareness there? Next slide. Why this disconnect? Many reasons. The media tends to focus on the negative, and the expense of college is often perceived as a negative, or there'll be one story about a person who's really carrying far more debt than they really should be, and that really captures our attention. It is true that college tuition costs are rising faster than the rate of inflation as well as family incomes, but that's a complicated question. There's no one reason that is happening because there are so many elements and factors that impact the cost of education. One of those things that are important is that less and less families, students are actually applying for access to financial aid programs. So we have money that goes unclaimed because students aren't coming forward to ask for it. That's just one piece of this complicated picture. American trust in institutions in general has been shown to be declining, right? We've seen a lot of skepticism around a lot of things, and higher education isn't immune to that. We do see, and I think that this is part of what I see as my responsibility on my campus, is helping students understand how to talk about their education so that they can be more competitive for the kind of work that they really want to do and that will sustain them over time. So we need to get better at helping students to describe what it is that they've learned and to get practice while they're still in college. And I think we're making good strides in that. And unfortunately, this last piece, too many students start college but don't finish. So as I talked earlier before, there are a lot of students who start college but don't necessarily choose something that they really feel strongly committed to, and then they fall away and then they end up in a bad situation, right? And also the fact is college is academically difficult, is meant to be difficult. And what I see is not students who are coming forward who don't have the ability to succeed. What I see more often is students who get in, who have personal situations that make it very difficult for them to dedicate the time to their studies that they would like to, or they're hesitant to ask for help, which is kind of a huge issue, I think. I do think it's kind of a Midwestern thing. In a way, I've met people from all around the world, and I think that Midwesterners are particularly kind of independent, and we don't like to rely on other people to get help, but that can hurt us in the end if we don't get help when we need it. Next slide, please. Okay. So here, this just kind of leads into what IU is doing to help students succeed, really thinking about that, like, what is the value of the different things that students are learning along the way in their education? How can we use high impact learning practices, that is experiential learning by doing, to help students succeed? Those kinds of questions are all on our mind. So I'm going to thank you for letting me speak, and I'll turn it over to the next speaker.
Thank you, Christina. There are a lot of great points in there that we're going to talk about in terms of how IU is doing to address those as well. So first, want to share that Maybe some of you know this already, maybe some of you don't. Indiana University is made up of several campuses and regional centers across Indiana. So we have 7 campuses from north to south of the state, and among all of those campuses, there are over 72,000 degree-seeking undergraduate students, 19,000 plus graduate and professional students, so that we have more than 91,000 students who are IU Hoosiers across the state of Indiana. What that should tell you is that this is a community where you have the ability to really find a campus that fits your needs. If you're looking for a campus that's close to home, or if you are looking to broaden your outreach and move away from home and be part of the IU system, there are multiple opportunities for you to do this. It is certainly a community where you belong. Wanted to just share some data points about the different demographics that our student population makes up. In 2019, we had students aging from 17 to 76 years old. So that's including degree-seeking students. It's also students who are maybe lifelong learners or taking classes maybe part-time as well while they work. So our students have different needs and different backgrounds. 70% of our degree-seeking students are Indiana students. They're residents here. They grew up or have lived in Indiana for at least a few years, if not their entire lives. 24% of our student population is made up of multiracial, African American, Hispanic, or Pacific Islander students. And those numbers tend to match the demographics of the state of Indiana as well. And we welcome international students. So we have over 8,500 students who represent more than 173 countries. So there's quite a lot of diversity that makes up each of our IU campuses. As Christina mentioned, finding the right fit for you academically is so important. Not only do you need to consider, your earnings post your degree, but also, as she mentioned, studying what you love, doing what is really part of your values, part of your personality, and part of your passion, so that you are graduating with a degree and really putting to use your skills and talents. So in the IU system, we have over 930 academic programs, with over 125 of those being online degrees or certificates. Over 20,000 classes offered each and every semester through IU campuses, with 21,000 plus faculty and staff members here to support you every step of the way, and 120 different countries represented by IU faculty. So again, we're trying to ensure that our faculty, staff, and students bring those unique talents and gifts that they have to the IU community. Part of what IU does is we help to bring experiences to you so that you can build your ideal future. And that ranges from personalized career advising, career exploration opportunities and connections through internships and networking events to help you with your professional development. You can get involved with your local IU community or the surrounding community to help give back. A lot of what IU faculty, staff, and students do is engaging to help solve real-world problems for their local community. So that's one way that you can give back in service, but also to help, guide and garner some new skills that will help you with your professional development. You can participate in research opportunities on your campus or through IU Global Gateways to get that international experience. And you can study overseas. We have over 380 different program options for overseas studies. So if that is something of interest, you definitely want to take advantage of that while you're at IU. One of the things that we know, and Christina highlighted, was that money and financial concerns are one of the biggest hurdles for students and families when considering whether or not to go to college. And IU has numerous resources to help make college affordable. We have a university-wide program, so students on all of those campuses and regional centers can take part in the IU Money Smarts program. They have different calculators and programs and events that help you understand and receive some personalized advice regarding your financial situation so that you are understanding what is really key to making up how you're paying for college. Loans are a part of that, but we also have scholarships, both internally and externally to IU. And that's where you really want to start with your financial planning, is to explore scholarship options for yourself. Excuse me. So each campus will have an Office of Scholarships that can help you to determine what's available on your particular campus of interest. External scholarships will also help make some of those costs, such as books, housing, anything above tuition and fees, and maybe even tuition and fees in some cases, just that much more affordable. And then there are grants to help you, state grants that you will be eligible for and be notified about when you file your FAFSA. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So that's just a quick overview of how the IU system as a whole, how we work together to create those supports for you to be successful. So now I'm going to turn it over to Lauren to talk about the IU Bloomington admissions process specifically.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lauren Mixon. I'm an assistant director in the Office of Admissions at IU Bloomington. And I'm going to just talk to you quickly about the IU Bloomington campus. So if you click Julia, so as Julia mentioned, there are several campuses around the state of Indiana. I am representing IU Bloomington in Bloomington, Indiana. We have 33,000 undergraduate students from all 50 states and over 140 different countries as well. So as you're on campus visiting and touring, you'll see students and people from all over the country and all over the world, and see what a wonderful and diverse campus that IU Bloomington has. On the next slide, IU has 12 schools within the university, 12 schools and colleges. You might have heard of some of them, such as the Kelley School of Business, which is a world-renowned business school, or even Jacobs School of Music, which is nationally ranked and known. There are great options when it comes to looking at different schools and programs at IU, and no matter what school you find yourself in, you know that you're going to be getting a great education. On the next slide, we have 200 plus majors at IU Bloomington, so there are lots and lots of options for you to choose from. If you look at our list of 200 plus majors and you still cannot find something that works for you, then we do have an individualized major program, which allows you to create your own major. So you're able to work with academic advisors on campus and really find the major or the program that works for you and be able to create it and sculpt it yourself. On the next slide, you'll see that we are able to mix and match majors as well. So those 200 plus majors really gives you a lot of freedom to explore academically. So if you're interested in, for example, having a major in the College of Arts and Sciences, but you'd like to have a minor in the Kelley School of Business, or have a certificate from another school or another program, that's an option as well. You really have the freedom to explore exactly what you want to pursue. And if you are a student who is not sure what you want to study yet, that's okay. You have plenty of time to figure that out. you do not have to declare a major until the end of your sophomore year. So you have 2 full years to explore, try a lot of new things before declaring a major. There are a couple of ways that you can go through our program and major process at IU Bloomington. The first is the University Division. This is the majority, where the majority of our students go. It's for all of our students who are completing prerequisites for their program or major, or for our students who, like I just mentioned, are still exploring and determining what they want to study. We do offer a number of direct admission programs, and direct admission is available for students who meet certain criteria coming out of high school. So if you are interested and you know exactly what you want to study coming into college, and you list that major on your application, and you meet the direct admission criteria for the 10 of our 12 schools that offer it, then you'll be automatically invited and enrolled in that direct admit program and in that school. Again, it's another additional invitation. It's just another way for you to excel at IU Bloomington. But if you are not directly admitted, that's okay. You're still admitted to Indiana University as a whole, and you can apply to the school or program of your choice at the end of your first year. Julia mentioned this earlier. So for the IU Bloomington campus, we do have 24% domestic students of color. And so IU Bloomington works really hard to try and make our campus as diverse as possible and also as welcoming as possible. Some of the ways we do that are through our campus culture centers. We do have 5 culture centers on campus that represent different ethnic groups and identities, but they are available for all students as well. They put on great events, both educational programming as well as just fun and celebratory programming. They also offer tutoring services and counseling services available for students, and they're just a really great resource on campus and also make campus feel like a home away from home. We also have disability services for students. So if you ever need any sort of assistance, additional time taking a test, perhaps you need an electronic version of your textbook, any types of resources like those, disability services for students, as well as the entire campus of IU Bloomington is really focused on making sure that campus is equitable and accessible to everyone. You can go to the next slide. So we do want to make sure that you're having fun outside of the classroom as well. We do have 750 student organizations. So there are lots of ways for you to get involved outside of the classroom. And so if you're involved in something in high school right now and you want to continue that in college, there are definitely most likely some version of whatever clubs you're involved in on the IU Bloomington campus. And if there isn't, there's always an opportunity for you to create your own as well. On the next slide, you'll also see that we have over 55 club and intramural sports as well for you to participate in. So again, if you are someone who's participating in a sport or an activity right now, and you know that you're not going to play necessarily at the Division I level, but you want to keep playing soccer or playing basketball because you love it, I really encourage that. You can always get involved in a club or an intramural sport. Next slide. We're also a part of a world-class arts and culture community here at IU. Part of that is because of Jacobs School of Music. Again, they put on tons of performances each year, plays, ballets, recitals, but then also there's the IU Auditorium located here in Bloomington that brings in outside performers and guests as well. So again, just like with sports, if you're someone who's involved in band or involved in choir and you want to continue doing those things, there's absolutely a place for you to continue pursuing those passions while you're on the IU Bloomington campus. Next slide. There are lots of fun traditions at IU. One of them is IU Dance Marathon. This is where students dance for 36 hours straight, a long time, to raise money for Riley's Children's Hospital in Indianapolis. On the next slide, you'll also see some images of Culture Fest. This brings together the 5 culture centers that I mentioned earlier, along with cultural organizations in the community and city of Bloomington. And they put on a huge festival every year with music and dance and great food, and it's a lot of fun. And then lastly, we're most well known for probably our Big Ten athletics. We're probably most well known for IU basketball and football, but there are 24 men's and women's varsity teams. So there are a couple of ways that you can apply to IU Bloomington. You can apply using the Apply IU application. So if you're interested in multiple IU campuses, you saw that map earlier of the different campuses around the state. If you're interested in a lot of IU campuses, the Apply IU application will allow you to apply to multiple campuses with just one application and one application fee. If you're interested in applying to lots of schools around the country, then you might want to use the Common App. The Common App allows you to apply to multiple schools across the nation with one application. We don't have a preference for which one you use. Just use the one that works best for you and the schools that you are applying to. You can make sure that you're sending in all of your important application materials. So to have a complete application, you need to send in the application form itself, include a fee or fee waiver if you're eligible for one. Also, you're going to want to make sure you write your IU specific essay, work with your school guidance counselor to send your high school transcripts, and then send your SAT and ACT test scores if applicable. And I'll talk about what that means in just a second. On the next slide, you'll see that you want to have all of this completed and all of these materials in by November 1st. November 1st is our early action non-binding deadline. It's also the deadline for highest scholarship consideration. So if you would like to be automatically considered for those merit and academic scholarships, then you want to make sure that you have all of those application materials in by November 1st. So earlier I mentioned that you can send in your SAT and ACT test scores if applicable, or if you choose. IU Bloomington is a test optional institution, meaning that you are able to decide whether or not you would like to have your SAT or ACT test scores considered as a part of your application and admissions review. It is completely up to you. If you send them, it's great additional information. If you choose not to send them, you're not penalized in any way. So it's really up to you whether or not you choose to include them. Additionally, you can also self-report your test scores, meaning you can write your test scores in on your application, and then after you've been admitted and have chosen to attend IU Bloomington, then we will request your official test scores. So let's go over a little bit of our admission standards for IU Bloomington. So we look for students who have completed at least 34 college prep or college readiness courses or semesters. So really, most students in the state of Indiana, you're on track to complete this with a Core 40 diploma. There are just some courses that are specific requirements to IU Bloomington that we always like to make sure that students remember. So one of those is that we do require 2 years of a foreign language. So it can be 1 year of French, it can be 1 year of Spanish. You just need to make sure you have 2 years of a foreign language. And then we also require 1 semester of pre-calc, calc, or trig. So 1 semester of pre-calc, calc, or trig as a part of your completed 34 college credits in high school. You also need to include your GPA. That will be included on your transcript. We look at weighted or unweighted GPA, whatever is officially reported. If both your unweighted and weighted GPA are on your transcript, we will look at whichever one is higher. Again, SAT and ACT test scores, you can choose to send those. And of course, your application essay. If you're completing the Common App, keep in mind that the IU specific essay is listed on the Common App as a writing supplement. So you want to make sure that you are completing the correct essay and submitting that on time. Here on the next slide is our middle 50% for the admitted freshmen of 2021. So these are the students we've just admitted. And so IU Bloomington does not have a minimum GPA or test score. This is the middle 50%, or rather our averages. So we 25% of the students we admitted were below these ranges, and 25% of the students we admitted were above these ranges. So for GPA, it was between a 3.6 and a 4.0. For SAT scores, it was between a 1200 and a 1400. And for ACT scores, it was between a 27 and a 32. Again, I just want to reiterate our deadlines. They're important. So November 1st is our early action non-binding deadline. Again, I want to make sure that all of you are considered for those merit scholarships. So have a complete application by November 1st. If you do, you'll hear back from us no later than January 15th. February 1st is our regular decision deadline. If you have a complete application by February 1st, you'll hear back from us no later than March 15th. And then after February 1st, we will review applications on a case-by-case space available basis. And this page is my contact information. I know I just covered a lot of information in a very short period of time. So if you have any follow-up questions or want to have a more in-depth conversation, please feel free to screenshot this, write this information down, take a picture of it, and I'd be happy to answer your questions via email or via phone.
Thanks, Lauren. We had a couple of questions that maybe, if you don't mind, we'll go ahead and get some response on. The first was, what's the difference between a major and a minor?
That's a great question. So a major and a minor, there's one difference in terms of credits. So in terms of the number of classes and the number of hours you're actually spending in class learning and studying about that specific thing distinguishes a major from a minor. And then additionally, your major is what you'll actually receive a degree in. So your minor will sort of be a noted right on your resumes and in your college transcript, but your actual degree and what you'll receive a degree for will be whatever you are majoring in. Great question.
Second question was from a student who has lived in Indiana their whole life and is going to be moving out soon, but they're still interested in going to IU Bloomington. Would they still qualify for in-state tuition?
That will depend on your residency at the time that you are applying. And actually our office, Student Central, which handles all of those types of questions, they will be able to tell you at the time that you're applying. But typically it's dependent on where your address is at the time that you're applying for IU Bloomington.
And then final question I see so far, with the Common App, can we apply to multiple colleges and universities with one application, or is it just for IU locations only?
Great question. The Common App actually has 900 schools across the nation, so you can apply to multiple schools across the country with the Common App. So if you're looking at schools in Chicago or Michigan and Indiana, including IU Bloomington, then a lot of those schools will be on the Common App and you can apply with one application.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. And as Lauren said, feel free to reach out. We'll have some additional contact information for all of the programs and resources we're talking about today at the end. But with that, we will turn the conversation over to Alyssa.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alyssa Luna, and I'm a senior admissions counselor for IUPUI. So I'm going to share a little bit with you about the IUPUI campus, and then also talk about steps on how to apply. But first, we're going to start with just a little bit about IUPUI. So as you can see, it says here, the slide, 5 reasons to become a Jaguar. And number 1, you will see it says the Jaguar experience. And so that's just sharing a little bit about our campus, what the student experience is like. So we do have over 30,000 students on our campus. About 8,000 at the graduate level, and then 22,000 at the undergraduate level. We do have over 500 student organizations on campus. So for example, if you're interested in athletics, we are Division I. We're in the Horizon League. We have 10 women's teams and 8 men. But then we also have other ways to be involved athletically. So from intramurals to clubs, there's a lot of great ways to stay active, even if you're not interested in playing at that Division I level. We do also have Greek life. So we do have fraternities and sororities on campus. We have our social clubs, and then we have some events that just make IUPUI unique or that are unique to our campus. So kind of how Lauren mentioned, we do also have a Riley Dance Marathon on our campus. Ours is called JAGAthon, which is the picture that you see here. So which raises money for children or Riley Children's Hospital. So one of the great ways to get involved. We do also have an event called the Regatta. So that is a half-mile canoe race that happens on the downtown canal in Indianapolis. It's one of those events where everyone attends, all of our students, faculty, staff, they all put boats into the race. And so it's really fun. You see a lot of student organizations, but then you also might see like your academic advisor or your instructor. So it's a really great time. It happens in the fall. So it's a great time to bring family and friends so that, everyone gets to experience IUPUI together. And then next slide. And then number 2 would be academic excellence. And so as you probably know from our name, IUPUI, which stands for Indiana University, Purdue University, Indianapolis. We are unique in that we offer degrees from 2 different universities. So depending on what your major is, you'll either graduate with that IU degree or that Purdue degree. So for example, say you're interested in nursing, that comes from our IU School of Nursing. So then at the end of the day, your degree would say Indiana University. But maybe you're interested in studying something like engineering. And so you go for mechanical engineering, just as an example. And then you would graduate with a degree that says Purdue University. But we do have 17 degree granting schools on our campus. Some of our most notable programs I've already mentioned, so nursing, engineering. We also have the IU Kelley School of Business. We have Purdue School of Science. We have the Heron School of Art and Design. And so that's just to name a few. So we do have over 550 academic programs on our campus. So chances are, whatever it is you're interested in, we do have a program that'll fit your interests and what you want to do post-graduation. So for employment and, looking into your job opportunities once you graduate from IUPUI. The next slide, thank you. And so number 3 is engaged learning. And so one of the great things that makes IUPUI unique is that we are in downtown Indianapolis, which enables us to offer a wide range of opportunities to get involved, to have that engaged learning. So that means, you're not just learning about it in the classroom, but you're getting to get hands-on experiential learning outside of class time. So for example, we do, say you're interested in the health or life sciences or with medicine, we do have one, IU's Med School is on our campus, but we also have 5 hospitals on our campus. So like Riley Children's Hospital is on the IUPUI campus, Eskenazi, which is the general hospital for all of Marion County. It's also a Trauma 1 center. So if that's the type of experience that you want to have, it's all within walking distance from your classrooms. And so there's great opportunities to have that engaged learning. We do have 2 signature research centers on our campus. So if you're interested in doing research, we have great opportunities there as well. And then could you go to the next slide? Yep. So number 4. So I know number 4 is the city of Indianapolis. And so I kind of like to talk about these both at the same time because I feel like they flow into each other. But I mentioned the hospitals on campus. But as you can see from this photo, we are in downtown Indianapolis. So maybe you're interested in business. We do have students that will do internships with some of the Fortune 500 companies that are downtown. So like Salesforce or Eli Lilly. If you're interested in politics or political activism or social justice, you are in the capital of the state. We also have IU's McKinney School of Law on our campus. So there's great opportunities to be politically and actively engaged that way. And then also something that's really big on our campus is community service or service learning. We have whole scholarship programs that are dedicated to doing volunteer type work or service learning, giving back to the community. And that's one way that we like to highlight our partnership with the City of Indianapolis, because our students are able to do so much within the Indianapolis community. So whether you want to do service learning that focuses on gentrification or housing insecurity or food insecurity, or maybe it's with health, like I mentioned before, all the hospitals that are on our campus, or if it's education or if it's art related. There's so many different ways to get involved and have meaningful connections and create a meaningful impact, in your community. And so that's one of the great ways that we're able to interact with the City of Indianapolis and a benefit of being on our campus. And then next slide. So number 5 would be outcomes. So this is where we like to talk about the success of our students. We do have graduates of IUPUI that are now working at places like Google and Facebook and Pixar and the NBA. So those are just some of the, obviously, our most notable ones. But we do have 80% of our graduates who are working in their field of study. So you know that we're training students well so that they can go into the areas, that you got your degree from and have those employment opportunities. And over 60% of our graduates do end up working in the City of Indianapolis post IUPUI graduation. So once you do graduate with that degree from IUPUI, a lot of our students are choosing to stay in the city and work with those companies or organizations that you might have built relationships with as a student. So again, a great way to connect with maybe some of those employers that you see yourself working with once you do graduate from IUPUI with your degree. And then next slide. And so briefly going to talk about how to become a Jaguar. A lot of what I'm going to mention, Lauren has talked about, because we do also use the Apply IU application as being one of the IU campuses. So just as she mentioned, we are on the Common App. We're also on Apply IU. As she mentioned, there's over 900 schools that use the Common App. So there are tons of different ways to you apply to us, but also apply to other schools. However, I will say if you are planning to apply to more than one IU campus, so maybe you're interested in applying to IU Bloomington and IUPUI, then I would definitely recommend using the Apply IU application versus the Common App. And the benefit with that is that with the Apply IU, you only have to do one application, which means you only have to pay one application fee, and then you can apply to all the IU campuses that you're interested in. And so like Lauren said, there isn't a preference whether you choose the Common App or Apply IU. It's totally up to you. It's your personal preference and what schools you're looking at. But that is the difference, or maybe a benefit between one or the other if you are looking to apply to more than one IU campus. Next slide. So just to give a little bit of our cost of attendance. So as you can see, we have listed here our in-state, out-of-state. MSCP means you're coming from one of the Midwest states. So like if you're like from Illinois or Ohio, something like that. But you probably want to focus on the in-state. So our tuition and fees, as you can see, is just under $10,000. Room and board, that is if you choose to live on campus. IUPUI, we're unique in that we are a 4-year university that does not require students to live on campus. But if it's something that you're interested in, we do have housing available for students. And I'll say about half of our freshman class will choose to live on campus. So we've got a pretty even mix between students who do want to live on campus versus those who, want to commute or live just off campus, like in their own apartment or whatnot, and then commute into campus. And then everything else like books and supplies, transportation, that's all just an estimation of personal expenses. So really what you want to focus on is where it says tuition and fees. That's what IUPUI would charge you. And then room and board if you are interested in living on campus. But like I said, it's not required at IUPUI. And then next slide. Yep. So how to start your journey at IUPUI. So like I said, the application, you can either use Apply IU or the Common App. Just as Lauren mentioned, we are test optional. So it's up to you if you want to share those test scores with us or not. You know, whether you've taken the ACT or ACT or SAT or ACT, it's totally up to you. When you fill out the application, one of the questions that it does ask is, do you want to share test scores? And so it's at your discretion if you want to or not. It doesn't negatively impact your application if you choose not to share test scores with us. So it's totally based on your personal preference of whether you want that to be considered in when we review you for admission to IUPUI. And the next slide. Yep, so just want to share some key dates and deadlines. Next one. So this is a kind of a timeline of events. It does start with like the spring. So Julia, I'm actually going to have you go to the next one just because I feel like we're closer to now the fall start, you know, being here in the middle of July. So August 1 is when our application opens. And that's when you can start, you know, if you're a senior now, August 1 is when you can start applying to IUPUI and all other IU campuses. September 1 is when our scholarships open. So if you do want to apply to our competitive scholarships that are specific to IUPUI students, those will become available as early as September 1st. Not listed, but the FAFSA does become available in October. So you can start filing your FAFSA in October. And then November is when our housing application is going to open. So like I mentioned before, if you do want to live on campus, the housing application will open up on November 1st. And then our very first scholarship deadline is going to be November 15th, which is our honors college deadline. So honors college is our top tier, most competitive scholarships. If you have a GPA of a 3.75 or higher, I definitely recommend applying to our honors college. It's a scholarship program that is tiered, but it can cover everything from tuition and fees, room and board, and even a study abroad stipend, you know, if and when you choose to study abroad while you're a student in the IUPUI. But it does have the very earliest deadline. So if you are interested in our honors college, you do want to make sure that you have that application in by November 15th. And then if you want to get in touch with us, this is all of our ways that you can stay in contact. So admissions.iupui.edu, that's where you can find our application. We list out all of the steps of how to apply, what you need to submit your application. So it's all outlined there. And then you can also stay in contact with us on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram at one of our IUPUI admissions pages where we do keep it up to date. And so, you know, when the application opens, we'll announce that. When our scholarships open, we'll announce that. When housing, all of that. So you stay informed and feel free to reach out to us at any time with questions. I am going to add to the chat my email address. So if you do have any questions about IUPUI, please feel free to reach out to me.
Thanks, Alyssa. We
Thank
have
you.
one question, may have been more towards the Bloomington side, but maybe you can answer from an IUPUI perspective.
Sure, go ahead.
Of how likely is it that a student can be admitted to an IU campus with a 3.0, less than a 3.0 GPA?
Yep, and I would say, so IUPUI and IU Bloomington, we do have different admission standards, even though we are using the same application portal. I would say with us, we do review students based off of your GPA, your cumulative GPA. So where your cumulative GPA from high school, we do accept weighted. If you choose to share your test scores with us, then we also take that into consideration. So your SAT or ACT, again, if you choose to share that. But we also do require an essay for your application for the IUPUI campus. And so we factor in all of those together. So if you are below a 3.0, what I would suggest is, you know, if you have taken the SAT or ACT, it could be, and you have good scores, it could be in your benefit to share those with us. That could help boost chances of getting into IUPUI, but then also pay close attention to that essay portion. So that essay, we recommend in length to be between 200 and 400 words, which is, sorry, it's my son, basically a paragraph. So nothing too long, but really to really, if you're below a 3.0, really try to hone in and pay close attention to that and really work hard on that essay. There's a lot of different things that you can discuss within that essay portion. What I tell students is to share your story. So if you are worried about your GPA, you can address that in your essay. Talk about other ways that you've been successful or that you've been active. So if you're in athletics, if you're in any clubs, if you work, what are you interested in? What are you passionate about? Really try to share about yourself so that we get the feeling that we've learned about you and we know about you. If you know what you want to study, you can share that and why you're interested in that. And really try to add meaning to that and what, how it's, really try to go in depth of why you're interested if you know what you want to major in. But again, we do admit students who are below 3.0, but if that's something that, but again, if you are below 3.0, you really want to kind of beef up those other parts. So especially the essay is what I would recommend. And then Lauren, I didn't know if you wanted to share from the IU Bloomington perspective.
Lauren may have stepped away for a second, but we'll try to get that from her.
I'm here. Sorry.
Oh, sorry. No, sorry. Go ahead.
Was there a question I didn't hear?
Yeah, the question is for students who have less than a 3.0 GPA, what's the likelihood that they would be admitted to the IU Bloomington campus?
Oh, great question. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier, we don't have any minimum, so I always encourage students to apply. If that year is, slightly more competitive, then there are definitely alternate routes that we've suggested for students. So we do have alternate programs to IU Bloomington and alternate pathways so that you can still attend IU Bloomington. But we have admitted students with less than a 3.0. It really is just dependent upon the year and the application pool that year. But I would definitely say don't, like I said, because we don't have minimums, don't let that deter you from applying to IU Bloomington.
Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, that holistic review is really important to consider that, when your application's being reviewed, we're looking at all pieces. So make sure that you are, as Alyssa said, telling your story and explaining why that particular IU campus is a good fit for you. And thanks to Christina for sharing from the Kokomo perspective in the chat as well. And with that, we are going to move to our next section on 21st Century Scholar resources at IU. So I will turn the floor over to Vince.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome you on behalf of the 21st Century Scholars Program and encourage you as an academic support program, which is what the 21st Century Scholars Program is, to a part of that answer to the question that was just given about the below the 3.0 is you still have time. Fully apply yourself this academic year to impact your GPA and do those things necessary to support your application, such as obtaining letters of recommendation that speak to your academic performance in the classroom. So you still have time to change that academic profile. The 21st Century Scholars Program is a program under the umbrella of Diversity, Equity, and the Office of the Vice President for Diversity, Equity, and Multicultural Affairs. So I'm going to link some of the things that you've heard already from other presenters with our 21st Century Scholars Program. So we are a fully functioning service program for 21st Century Scholars. I am the director, and I have 3 academic advisors. One of the advisors has a emphasis on academic recovery. So if you come into IU Bloomington, you take a stumble, we are here to assist you in reclaiming and regaining your academic status. We also have an academic advisor that's focused on career and career preparation. So when you heard about those statistics and why a degree is important and why it makes you more competitive in the job market, we provide a range of services. We have partnerships with different organizations that do provide career placement opportunities. We, as OVP DEMA, have our own career fair, which we're heavily involved in putting together. As a byproduct of that career fair, we receive fees from those companies that are a part of that. Those fees go into our reinvesting in you, the student, to help support different career development programming or opportunities that you see and identify that you're interested in attending. We also have an AmeriCorps member that's there to monitor your scholarship and help you navigate any red tape with your scholarships. We also have Lisa Huffman, who is our special projects coordinator. She puts out a newsletter, an email blast, and a number of other things to keep you aware of what opportunities are on campus for you, what opportunities are specifically there for 21st Century Scholars, what campus deadlines we're having, what state deadlines we're having for your scholarships. We also have a incoming graduate student. You see some faces here at the bottom. This graduate student, she will no longer be in that position, and these are our two social work students as well. We have additional team members, our graduate member, and in the spring, two social work majors that also put forth different programming to enhance your experience and to be there to assist you in navigating this system. So the good news, we talked about costs, right? You heard the different fees, etc., the cost to attending. As a 21st Century Scholar, if you are a 21st Century Scholar, you're automatically going to receive the 21st Century Scholar State Scholarship. That's going to cover tuition and some fees. Here at IU Bloomington, we want you to come to IU Bloomington so much, we offer you a covenant scholarship. That covenant, it's based upon need, is designed to cover the cost of your room and board and some additional fees. So that's one of the big things that we have to offer you. We are a residential college, and as a 21st Century Scholar, the majority of our 21st Century Scholars do qualify for some amount of covenant, and that goes to cover that cost of room, a standard room and board, so you don't have to worry about those costs. You will know that amount when your financial aid, after you complete your FAFSA, and they give you a package with an estimation. I just attended a state meeting this morning where they sent out to those students the state scholarship opportunity and the amount that they will receive. The same thing here for the university. They send out an earlier estimate as far as what your covenant would look like, so that you have that and can make an effective decision. We also assist you through the College Scholarship Success Program. Just as you have a scholar success program at present from 9th to 12th grade, you will have one of these for all 4 years of your college. And we provide a lot of programming. There's the whole campus, which provides a lot of programming that helps you reach the programming that will help you reach these goals. But we in-house provide activities so that each year you could just list those activities that you were engaged with through the 21st Century Scholars Program, and it will automatically cover each of those requirements. So I won't go into any more depth about the College Scholar Success Program. You could ask me questions if you would like, but we could talk about that at a later point. Workshops. So you heard about financial literacy. We have workshops to help you complete the FAFSA. We partner with the Financial Aid Office here on the IU Bloomington campus to answer any questions and assist you with your FAFSA if you have any. We have a program designed to talk about financial literacy and living off campus, how to appropriately maximize your scholarships so that you can cover your costs. One important point, that Covenant Scholarship does not just apply your freshman year when you're living on campus. It goes with you. If you decide you want to move off campus, you still have the same amount according to your need that goes with you and helps you cover those costs as well. Financial wellness. Again, you heard about Money Smarts. We partner with Money Smarts and we do a series of in-person workshops. We do podcasts. We have a podcast series that just was taking place during the summer to talk about that. And we had a series of workshops during the year. So we really want to make sure you understand how to maximize the scholarship dollars that you obtain. I'd like to encourage you, not only if you are a 21st Century Scholar, even if you're not a 21st Century Scholar, please make sure you visit the scholarship page for IU Bloomington. Lisa will put that in the chat, and that will list a wealth of scholarship opportunities that are there for you to apply for. The 21st Century Scholar Academic Advisors, our academic advisors, again, are not just here for you during your freshman year. We're here for you all during your undergraduate career, all 4 years. So whether you're direct admit, university division, you have access to these 21st Century Scholar specific and specialized advisors through walk-in hours or appointments. They're equally available to all students. Now, if you are a university division incoming freshman scholar, you will be assigned to one of the 3 of these academic advisors. Student advocacy. We're your advocates. If you hit an issue in the class, out of the class, in the community, make sure that you contact us. We're here to assist you, get you to the right place to solve that problem, or to advocate with you when you need advocacy to overcome a particular issue or get the assistance you need. Number one, coming in as a college student, you have to keep in mind that you are your best advocate and you are the person that needs to speak up and communicate so that you can get the assistance that you need. Talked about student organizations. We have a student organization called the IU Bloomington 21st Century Scholar Leadership Corps. Leadership Corps is a great way to get involved with campus. We have 3 different divisions under the umbrella of Leadership Corps. Ambassador Corps, which you will meet some of those students potentially today, where you, in forums like this, they compose panel members. They also engage in outreach in other formats. We also have Public Relations Corps. Since our scholars enter all different kinds of doors, we want the opportunity for you all to get to know each other. So we have a special division within that organization that puts together programming such as bowling or escape room and any of those kind of activities. And we also are engaged in community service. So we have a volunteer division underneath which we engage in regular community service through that organization. As a part of that CSSP, which is the College Level Scholar Success Program, it is a requirement that you have a mentor. We have a long-standing relationship with Phase Mentoring. And the Phase Mentoring Program is a program that when you come into IU, you'll have the opportunity to sign up as you register to receive an upperclassman mentor. And there's a whole different structure to that, but it's a great opportunity, again, not only to have us at the professional level, to have someone at your peer level, and you'll hear from one of those individuals as well on the panel. Opportunities for engagement. Learning communities, when you come into the housing environment at Indiana University Bloomington, you'll have the opportunity to choose a wide range. One of those, which was mentioned earlier, is a living and learning center. There's a number of different ones according to your interests. So again, you have clubs, hundreds of clubs that are there for you to be involved in, over 700. And you also have the opportunity to immerse yourself in a particular interest through a living and learning center or a thematic community. So those are some things that you can get more information as you come in and as you explore and understand. I'm speeding up because my time is limited, so I don't want to go into much depth. But if you have any questions, ask me. So here is our email. If you email that address, Lisa will receive that email. That is our website as well. If you go to our website, you'll see the information that I presented and more. So this is a wonderful opportunity for you to ask any questions that you may have upcoming. Thank you.
Thank you, Vince. Appreciate that. We are getting towards the end of our time together, but we certainly wanted to bring in some current IU students for their perspective on IU and to answer questions that you have. So as we introduce our student panel, if you want to continue to throw questions into the chat, or if you have a question you want to unmute yourself and ask it directly, you are more than welcome to do so. So I think to start off with, let's ask our student panelists to introduce themselves, what year you are, and your major, and just generally why IU? Why did you select IU as your college campus? So Ravneet, let's start with you.
Yeah, so my name is Romney Carr. I am a junior majoring in biology, Bachelor of Science, and minoring in Spanish. And I chose IU. It's not too far away from home. I live in Greenwood. It's about an hour away. And it's very well known for its some of the majors that I wanted to partake in, which was biology and pre-med, which is like a major key that led me to IU. And then on top of that, I had the 21st Century Scholarship, and I knew that we had the covenant, so I knew that I will have not much depth going into college. So that was another factor that played in.
I'm Cece Taylor. I'm about to be a junior too. I'm majoring in English with a minor in Spanish. One reason I chose IU is because coming into college, I was undecided, and the amount of programs and majors and minors that I would be able to explore going into IU, I knew that wasn't something that every college would be able to offer me. And also being a 21st century scholar, I knew that I wouldn't feel burdened financially while trying to kind of explore my interests and what I wanted to do with my life.
Excellent. Maybe for the next question, try to put yourself back into the shoes of the students on the call here today. We've got some rising high school juniors and seniors. It's a really critical point. There's a lot going on in high school as well, right? As you're kind of wrapping up those important years. What was the one thing that you wish you had known before you got to IU? Cece?
I feel like so for a long time, like college, like I knew I was going to college, but it just wasn't on my radar. So suddenly, like come junior year, I was just ingesting tons of college information, like everything. And I wish I just would have known that it's not nearly as scary as you really think it's going to be. And that transition from high school into college can really not be that bad if you just decide that you're going to be outgoing, you're going to talk to people, and you're really going to just like engage with campus.
Great advice. Yeah, it's not as scary, and there's lots of support systems in place for you to be successful. So use those resources. Ravneet, what would you wish you had known?
I agree with CC. Junior year, I got blasted after taking the SAT, the ACT, the PSAT, all those tests. I did get a lot of emails, mails, and something I would say yes, it's scary in the beginning. I have a sister who's in junior right now in high school, so she's just about to start that process. And I completely understand how it's scary thinking about scholarships, thinking about depth, major. I just say live that moment because you won't relive it until like 4 years later when you decide to go for grad school or something. But enjoy what you have of that time. Take the time to understand what you want and not worry about deadlines all of a sudden. Because I get it. A lot of us are in AP classes. We're in ACP classes. We have exams that we need to take. And on top of that, we still need to decide what we want to do and what college we want to go to. So I say plan out your schedule or plan out college visits. They give you so much information. I mean, you get a file of everything that's going on. And even today in this presentation, you learned a lot about our acceptance rates, our application. So just take the time to understand yourself and what you want and live that moment. Enjoy it.
Awesome. You both mentioned that planning is a really big part of kind of managing that influx of information that's coming. Are there ways that you found helpful to like organize all of the information and maybe set aside particular times to review certain things on a regular basis? Ravneet, do you want to start with that?
Yeah, so I'm the first one in my family to go to college. And so I had my parents, they had support, but they didn't have the knowledge that they can pass on to me going into college. So I would normally I go to my teachers, my advisors, and ask for their advice and use it and implement it. I had a email that I created that I would receive only for the I had a separate email that I used to get all of the college information I signed up for, and then on my calendar I planned out when I take my SAT, when I would take my ACT, normally on the weekends, so I don't have to deal with the hassle of high school work. And then last but not least, I reached out to the admissions office of each college I applied for to get insight of their college deadlines, their scholarship deadlines. I participated in many Zoom calls or phone calls, emails, anything that you can think of. I did all ways of communication. And from that communication I then would look into my day to day basis. So you can plan it out accordingly. Pros, cons, email list, what dates that seem suitable to you. So it really depends on how you handle your workload.
Great tips. Cece, what tips do you have for planning?
I'd say for me, I know one of the things I had to do immediately was just narrow my scope because, there's thousands of colleges in the US and you're probably getting emails from a lot of them. So I kind of narrowed down what schools I was really looking at. And then I made a Google Doc that had like all the information, all my notes that I took from when I went on campus, what I thought about it when I was on campus, the scholarships, the deadlines. So then I would just go on there and I would make sure everything, like I was hitting scholarship deadlines, I was hitting my application deadlines. Because when you have so much information about different schools, some things will fall by the wayside if you just don't have it in one place. So I would say just like take everything and stuff it into somewhere you're going to check.
Awesome. Yeah, really knowing what it is that you're looking for is important. One of the things that I would like to highlight about Indiana University, as I said earlier, we have all these different campuses, and each campus has its own culture and makeup. And if you're looking for the large campus experience or the residential campus experience, Bloomington and IUPUI are great options for that. The great thing about Kokomo, and I've heard the chancellor there say this before, is that you get the feel of a private school for a public school tuition cost. So you get that more one-on-one with faculty and with the staff there and other students. You get to know that community because it's a much tighter knit community. So to Cece's point, really looking for those things that that kind of tick all the boxes of what you're wanting out of a college experience, and kind of comparing when you do those visits is really important. I don't see any questions yet, so again, feel free to put those in if you have questions. I know that everybody on the call today is open to connecting with anybody afterwards if you have additional questions, but
I have a quick question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of the panel. Could you share what what organizations you're engaged with at the college setting?
Yeah, so I am on a lecture committee for the Union Board, which is one of the largest student-run organizations. There's different committees. I do lectures. That means we bring people to campus to talk. We've brought like Josh Peck, we brought Anderson Cooper, Anthony from Queer Eye, if anyone's excited about that. And then I also worked for RPS Dining at one of the C stores, which is actually a job, and you get paid like $10.15 an hour. If you guys want a part-time job, let me plug that real quick. And then also I'm now working for the 21st Century Scholars Program.
I am a part of different clubs as well. I am part of College Mentor for Kids. It's a very big organization. There's many chapters in different colleges as well. We worked with elementary kids 1 hour a week, and just play games and teach them about real world problems, or they get to learn about like 3D printing, engineering, so they get to learn about all these different things. I'm also part of BASE, which is a mentoring service program that was shown in the presentation earlier. We get to work with incoming freshman students, transfer students, and SMART students on any resources they need, any questions they have. We get to answer that. And there's no set amount of time like you have to meet every single month. You can decide how you want to meet. We meet either once a week or bi-weekly, monthly, or after 2 months. It really depends on how you want it. It's very flexible. And as much as 21st Century, they also have a lot of events that you can attend. So that's another thing. And then I'm also part of the 21st Century panel, so I get to work with the 21st Century and probably help with the STEM program in there.
Awesome. Yeah, both Ravneet and Cece are very active outside the classroom, as well as keeping those grades up high. And we've really enjoyed having them part of some of our other pre-college programs that we've got going on this summer. So I know we are pretty much at the end of our time, but I did want to share just a few more things about how you can keep preparing and engaging with us and with our different programs across the state. So I'm not going to go through in too much detail, but really there are 3 areas that we want to have you think about keeping your college readiness going, and that's academically. So, be working with your college counselors as well as your high school counselors to make sure that you're on track for graduation and being prepared for those applications. We want you to take advantage of experiences offered to you. So participate in extracurricular and service activities. Find activities that help you determine what your interests are so that you can help think about what major really is a good fit for you. Visit a campus, visit as many campuses as possible so that you can find that right fit and explore other pre-college programs. And keep preparing financially. Know the costs of college. Use that Money Smarts calculator on their website. We'll provide you all with some information to keep exploring these resources later. But look for those scholarships, both internal and external to the schools that you're looking at, and meet those important deadlines. So the last thing that I want to share is that we have a similar program that's a more extended version of what you heard here today called the High School Explorers Program. And that is kicking off tomorrow. We are going to talk about the transition from high school to college. We're going to look at employability skills and careers and how to navigate all of the resources we talked about. And I know that we'll have some students as part of that conversation. So if you are interested in that, we are starting tomorrow at noon. And we're going to be meeting for a couple hours both or Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So if you're interested in that, down at the bottom of the screen is the website to register for that. That's go.iu.edu/explorer. So if you have questions about that, feel free to jot those in the chat, and I'm happy to stay around and talk about that. But we want to stay connected with you, and we hope that you stay connected with IU. This is another great screen if you want to take a screenshot or a photo with your camera, your phone. We've got the contact information for the Offices of Admissions, Scholarships, 21st Century Scholars Program, and our Office of Community and School Partnerships. So I want to give a big thanks again to all of our presenters, but especially to you for joining us today to learn about these resources. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. So thank you so much and have a wonderful afternoon, everybody.